Revenge films.
I was called in by the cops because my car was caught in a speed camera, but I wasn't driving it. This New Year's, I received a call from the police saying that they had found my father's body. My father had disappeared 2 years ago. It all started when I found out that my wife at the time was having an affair with my own father. At the time, my father and my ex-wife, Karen, were driving my car to go on vacation together, and they got caught speeding. At first, when the police contacted me, I had no idea what was going on. But they showed me the picture, and it was them. The day that the picture was taken, Karen had told me that she had a reunion to attend, and that she would be spending the night at her parents' place. The picture, however, was taken in a completely different area. Karen had lied about the reunion to go on an affair trip with my father. My father was what one would call a womanizer. And my mother, who had passed away already, had been cheated on multiple times as well. My sister and I even knew that he was always having affairs. The last thing I expected was for him to hit on my own wife. I was extremely distressed after I found out. It wasn't something that I could process alone, so I talked to the only person I could think of, my older sister, Paige. She was skeptical at first, but thinking back on my father's record, she couldn't rule out the possibility either.
It doesn't make any sense. Karen said she was going to be at a class reunion, right? Why is she in a completely different city with Dad?
Paige was the one who suspected infidelity first. I understood her logic, but I still didn't want to believe that such a thing was even a possibility. But the more I thought about it, the more it became the only explanation that made sense. I felt sick to my stomach. Paige insisted that I do a deep dive, so I asked my friend who just got divorced to introduce me to a detective. Well, what I found out was depressing to say the least. My father had been coming over to my house almost every day while I was at work. I didn't even need a detective to find out that. I put up a security camera at the house, and it recorded him every time. They flirted in the living room because they knew that I wouldn't be coming home anytime soon. I saw the footage of my father sleeping with Karen in the bed that I sleep in every night. Like punching a hole in the TV. I just clenched my fists and held it in. After they were finished, you could see them taking a bath together. There weren't any cameras in the bathroom, but I could easily imagine what was going on in there. It absolutely disgusted me, and I wanted to get a divorce immediately. After finding out the truth about Karen and my father's affair, I couldn't sleep at night, and food wouldn't go down my throat, let alone any kind of nighttime activities with Karen. Whenever she asked me to sleep with her, I just got images of my father in my mind and felt like I was going to throw up. Those days were so brutal. Must have been at the limits of my emotional distress, because I passed out at work.
Hey! Jack passed out! Call an ambulance!
When I woke up, I was lying on a hospital bed. How are you feeling? I'm sorry, sir. Don't worry about it. Just get some rest. Yes, sir. My boss had been concerned about me because he saw me getting thinner and thinner. I didn't want to tell him about Karen and my father until then. But I ended up telling him everything at the hospital. Oh my gosh. He didn't look like he even believed me at first. After taking a good look at my condition, he could tell I wasn't lying. Don't bottle it in, Jack. I'm here for you. My boss really took it to heart and contacted the corporate lawyer for me. That lawyer introduced me to a partner that specialized in divorces. I was gathering evidence on my own, but I never built up the courage to confront Karen about the affair that she was having with my father. But part of it was that I was afraid of what I might do to her when I heard it directly from her mouth. So I decided to leave it all to my lawyer. I gathered my things while Karen was out. My boss lent me a room at the company dorms, so I decided to stay there for now. My wife called me a million times after finding out that I had left, but my lawyer told me that I shouldn't talk to her. So I ignored all her texts too, and transferred them to my lawyer. According to my lawyer, Karen was insistent on speaking with me. But she shut up after she was shown the reports from the detective and the footage that was captured at home. And my lawyer convinced her to stop trying to contact me. My father, on the other hand, wasn't picking up at all. Karen must have tipped him off, and he must have been too ashamed to show himself in front of me or Paige. He just disappeared. Karen said that it was a forced relationship by my father that dragged on. With my father gone, there was no way to get to the truth of the matter. If what Karen said was true, that would mean that it was my own father that approached her first. And if she was forced like she said, I would have even felt bad for her. But her lie was exposed shortly after. My lawyer was extremely good at her job. and upon further investigation, she was able to get testimony from one of Karen's friends. It was true that it was my father was the one who approached her. Karen was on board from the beginning as well. It was infuriating to find out that she was so selfish and such a liar. So instead of the $20,000 in alimony that I was asking for initially, I increased the amount to $35,000, with no split assets and a restraining order, and I got my divorce. I haven't spoken to Karen since. Rumors are, she got remarried to an older guy with children after a while. Karen came from a famous, prestigious family in town. Her younger brother was married, and had already inherited the family business. There must have been no place for a divorced cheater like Karen to go back to. She had to get a loan to pay off the alimony that she owed me as well. My father never showed himself to us after that. I wasn't sure if the rumors were true, but I heard that he was homeless somewhere after that. Honestly, I didn't feel anything after hearing that. I still had feelings of hate towards him for ruining my marriage with Karen. And this New Year's, he was found dead in a flophouse where day laborers stayed. Even after hearing about his death, I felt nothing. I did hold a funeral as a son, but that's all. I didn't accept his body into our family grave, because I didn't want a person like that in the same grave as my mother. Paige felt the same way. Karen had gotten remarried and had a new life, and my father became homeless and crossed over. All of the details about why my father decided to go after Karen in the first place, and the other truths behind the incident, were lost with him. There was no way for me to find out the truth, and I was left without any closure. A while after my father passed away, the lawyer gave me a call. She told me something shocking. My father had left money behind for me. He had been living as a homeless, without a house, and was saving all of his money. He had also purchased life insurance, and I was the recipient. I'm sure he didn't expect to die so soon, but I'd inherited my father's money. I contacted Paige and told her about the inheritance. I wasn't sure what to do with the money, and I figured that Paige had a right to some of it as well, because she was also affected by my father's wrongdoings. Paige refused, however.
That money was left for you. I'm doing just fine. You decide what you want to do with it.
Paige was married, and her husband made enough money for them to live a comfortable life.
Karen paid you alimony, but you haven't received a penny of compensation from Dad's side.
It must have been a big factor for her as well. Well, she's right that in any other case, it would be normal for me to charge alimony to the other side as well. It may have been the last bit of conscience left in him, but I could tell that my father had felt guilt and wanted to right his wrongs with me. But that doesn't change what he did. I did feel like it was closure, though. Time to move on, I guess.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.